Okay, all right. So what did you think of me as a student? Honest answer.
Cool. All right. Honest, totally brutally honest assessment. There's some good lessons in here for everyone who's watching. Josh asked probably more questions than any other student in the class. And in my experience, the students who are like that are the ones who are the most successful. And if like, even if like, Josh wasn't this way. Josh was very smart, very bright, and asked a ton of questions. Really, really, I was very impressed with you as a student, and just anyway, had a lot of confidence that you were gonna, do okay. But even the students that are like, my opinion, I felt are just like asking tons of like dumb questions, like oh my gosh, anyway, like they do well. Like the students who are willing to just like forget your your pride, like don't worry about like looking stupid. Even if you do look stupid and the teacher thinks you're stupid, like that doesn't matter. Like that doesn't affect you. Like asking the questions, like that's the fastest way for you to like increase and improve your ability. So anyway, yeah, no, Josh was always asking me questions after class. I think there were many times where I stayed after. I remember to help you out.
What's going on, guys? What you saw there was the OG bootcamp teacher, the person who taught me how to code. I was the Padawan, he was the Jedi. His name is Ben Nelson, and he taught me how to code. And right now he's actually the CTO of Lambda School. So if you're wondering why I keep making all these videos about Lambda School, that's how this whole thing happened. I reached out and we talked and I'm like, let's make a video series. But in this video, I'm asking him questions that I wish I would have asked him while I was there, and things that I think could help you out now. Like, what is a skill that everyone needs to know going forward, like from now on? Like, what is hot and in demand right now that people need to know? You can't say React, you can't say Redux, like these types of questions. And then people in the Discord drop some questions that I also asked him. I sent him a list beforehand, so he's kind of prepared, but I also asked him some questions off the cuff, and try to keep it a little bit challenging, a little bit spontaneous. I don't want it to seem like too scripted for you guys. But he's a super cool dude, super chill dude. I've made videos about like mentioning him before, about how he used to give really hard problems, and I would just show up and just put my head on the table, and like, oh man, it was the worst. And there would be days where I knew he was going to teach, and I just like, oh no, now I have to, like, do I go? What am I doing with my life? And I respect him a lot. He really knows his stuff. He was actually, when I was going there, Ben was goals. He was actually remote, and I was like, I want to work remote, and he was like, we'll see if we can't get you there. And knowing what I know now, knowing how difficult that can be sometimes, it's just like, wow, he does remote and he teaches, and now he's a CTO. Like, I have nothing but respect for the guy. He really knows his stuff, and I hope you guys can take away some actionable stuff. Anyways, guys, since we're talking about Lambda School, I do have a link from them. The link is in the description below. If you sign up for Lambda School using that link and then you complete the program, you get $250, and you also support the channel. If you want to use that link, great. If not, fantastic. I just hope someone can take something from this video that helps them out. All I want to do is just help one person. If I can, fantastic. That's my whole entire goal with these videos, is to put my skills and knowledge into the service of other people. I know that sounds cheesy, but all of your positive comments and emails and questions, they just keep me going, and I really appreciate all of the support. Having said that, I'm not going to do an outro for this video. We have a Discord, got a community there of good group of people, always trying to help each other out, not just in software, but in life, job hunting, just basically everything. Good community of people, love to have you, give you a personal welcome. If you want to see more of these, hit that little subscribe button. God, this is getting really long. You guys know what to do. I hope you enjoy this video. I got the first question. Just give us your background.
So yeah, my name's Ben Nelson. I'm the CTO of Lambda School and co-founder. I started, so I'm from near Provo, Utah, a little town called Mapleton. Grew up there. Austin, my other co-founder, that's where he grew up as well. And I had a friend go through Dev Mountain's first part-time web development bootcamp. So I did that over the summer, thinking it would give me kind of a leg up in the computer science program, get into some more practical stuff. And anyway, I really liked it. And one of the instructors there had just finished up from Hack Reactor. That's how I found out about Hack Reactor. I went out and did them in San Francisco, took a semester off, came back, and I decided, I'm going to start applying for jobs. If I get a job, I'll just do that. If not, then I'll go back and keep going to school. And but I got a job. So I got a job for a startup called Molio. in one of the mountain, worked there for a little while. The CTO ended up quitting, and they ended up like removing the engineering team. So then after that, I went and worked at iFit, which is a company based out of Logan, Utah. I worked remotely, full stack developer. I kept wanting to go back and finish up my computer science degree, but just the opportunity cost was too high. Every time I looked at it, it was like, well, what if I spent all that time just like coding on side projects? Or what if I spent all that time writing apps or doing whatever? And it just always made more sense to spend that time coding than actually going back and taking the formal classes. So anyway, so did that. I ended up teaching part-time at Dev Mountain over their part-time program. That's where I met Josh. And I did that for a while. And so Austin, he had a couple thousand people signed up for a class that he was doing online and for Python, teaching a Python class. And then his teacher quit on him like 2 days before. So then Austin needed someone to come in and teach it, was asking, and his little brother was one of my best friends. So that's how we got connected. And then, we've just been working together ever since.
Where did you learn the Python at?
That weekend. I've done enough JavaScript where I was a pretty advanced, just like programmer in general. And so it was just, and when you're teaching someone from zero, I just, it was pretty basic stuff. And so I just got in and figured it out. It was kind of rough. Our future free classes that we taught were all JavaScript focused, which is a better fit for my skill set. But yeah, that's how we made it.
After Dev Mountain, after your jobs, you created Lambda School with Austin, right? And then you got Y Combinator's seed money.
Yeah, I'll dive into the Lambda School story a bit. So Lambda School started out as an online functional programming school, like teaching Haskell and stuff like that. And then when I came on, the idea that like, let's be the first bootcamp to really nail the online live presentation. So we're like, all right, we'll make everything live. It won't be pre-recorded content. It won't be self-paced. It will all be very structured and live, but we'll just do it online so people can attend from anywhere. And we do have a bunch of free classes. We use them like to lead into our full classes, but they're free and it's a great way to figure out if you like programming or not. So then we bootstrapped it. We got people to pay up front for it using our free classes to lead into that. And then Austin and I both wanted to apply to Y Combinator, so we applied and by getting the company going, something we realized is that we had all these students in our free classes that would love to attend, but they just couldn't afford to pay up front. And we thought like, well, if we're good enough and if our school is really good and we can really get people jobs, then if we have them pay on the back end, then it makes sense because we can get more people in the class. And as long as we can actually get people jobs, then it makes sense and the financial model can work. That's how universities work. You get a job and so you can pay off your student loan, hopefully, right? I mean, that's a whole other discussion. There's student loan crisis and all that and defaults are rising, whatever. But that was kind of the thinking. And so the thought was, well, if we're putting the payment on the back end, let's make the class even longer, because then we can afford to pay for a longer class. So let's make it 6 months, 7 months. We'll dive into computer science fundamentals. We'll go way deeper than any other boot camp. And then we'll make it live, online, and structured so people can attend from anywhere. And then we'll use an income share agreement. So our students will only pay us if they get a job making $50,000 or more. So if so they don't get a job, it doesn't work out, they don't pay us a cent in tuition. They only pay tuition if they actually get a job that they got because of our training. And we felt like by aligning the incentives, it made it so like we would make a better school, like it would be more ethically like founded, and that we would do better things for our students. So that was the model that we pitched to Y Combinator, and they found it really compelling, and they invested in us. And so we did Y Combinator over the summer. That was last summer, and then finished it up, raised a seed round, a $4 million seed round. And so now we have 375 students as of yesterday, and we have 27 employees and over 50 contractors, which are our different TAs and people that we have helping. And something that's been really cool is that because we're live or because we're remote, all the money that we would normally be sinking into like rent and facilities and stuff like that, we sink that into instructors. And so we've been able to hire a lot of really cool people. Like we have a guy, Beej Jorgensen, who has written all these tutorials that are used in like master's degree CS programs all around, like on networking all around on the country. We have a guy from Google, a guy that worked for NASA JPL, and just we're able to get a lot of talented people that want to get out of the Bay Area because it's so expensive, and then they work remote and they're like remote instructors. And
So yeah, how many alumni do you have?
we have around 50 now. So our first classes were a little smaller. They started graduating in January. So yeah, it's around 50, 60. We're just getting to the point where we're having students getting jobs about every day now. So about every day we get one. So our first class is they've been out for about 5 months, and they're at around it's around a 75, 80% hiring rate. That fluctuates a little bit. Some of them we keep back as TAs for a while to help teach students for a little bit before they enter into the job market. So that kind of tweaks the numbers a little bit. But yeah, the cool thing is, we invest a lot into hiring partnerships. So something we do too is we have capstones. So it's similar to like the project like that you did at Dead Mountain, but we define them. So the students don't come up with them. We define them and spec them out and like give them designs, and they work on, they have like a Kanban board, they do sprints, they have their daily stand-up, that whole thing. And then at the end, they have a capstone defense. It's kind of like a thesis defense where they have to defend their project against like some engineers that we bring in from hiring partners. So you have like engineers that will come in, and then instructors that will sit on this panel and have to defend it. And so it's actually a pretty cool networking opportunity. And over half the companies that have sent engineering representatives have ended up hiring our graduates because it's they can actually kind of see, because they can kind of see like the bootcamp thing can actually be effective, and these students can.
I imagine like if they're defending their thesis, then they have like, it's almost like being whiteboarded, but you have a complete project and you have to explain how you got to this point, rather than like as you're building it, like they just probe you to make sure that you know what you're talking about, how you got here. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. But the thing that's super cool that I saw was that what we didn't get at Dev Mountain was like the computer science fundamentals, like the algorithms, data structures, all that stuff that you would get, I guess, at a university, but condensed down. And that's why it's like 6 months instead of 3 months, I imagine.
Yeah, and that was one of the big things. So with being in the Y Combinator network, we were able to reach out to a lot of Y Combinator companies, and we spoke with a lot of CTOs and like worked backwards and said like, hey, what's your opinion of boot camps? Like, what do you feel like boot camp grads typically lack? And then we kind of worked backwards from that. And yeah, so like we teach like C for a little bit as well. So like we teach Python and C in addition to like the full JavaScript stack. So we focus a lot on like relational databases as well as the non-relational like Mongo stuff that you typically see at a boot camp. But yeah, we get into C, like they learn about, like multi-threading and you get into computer architecture and like operating systems and like memory and like memory allocation, all that kind of stuff that maybe gets like glossed over at best at some of the bigger full-time boot camps. But it makes a difference because we try to produce students who are technically flexible. Because like with you finished up and you were able to do stuff with Ruby and do stuff with with PHP and it was hard to ramp up to be able to do that, but you've been able to find success and even being flexible. We try to facilitate that with our students to have that foundation to where if they want to go get a job using something that's outside of the tech stack that we taught, they can. And that's part of the reason why we teach multiple languages and it's kind of a different approach that's so far proving to be really effective.
I mean, yeah, I think it's cool that you get like the whole entire normal boot camp, but then you get like all this like underlying stuff that people usually complain. Like if you see a Reddit post on like art programming, they're like, I would never hire because there's no computer science. And then like, this is one of the only ones I've seen that incorporates that, especially because I think you have Python in the web dev curriculum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super cool. I think people get really hyped when they hear about Python because they can do hardware and automation, machine learning, like all that stuff. You can even Django, I guess, Flask.
Yeah, so we teach Django. We were going to do Flask, but yeah, and that's the thing is like Python and JavaScript are two of the most in-demand programming languages. There's just so much you can do with both of those. And so then we also do some C, so that way if you wanted to go into, if you wanted to go and learn like Java, or if you wanted to go learn like C# or something like that, you would have some more experience in like a typed language or something that's a little more strict, a little more low level. But yeah.
Yeah. So like I had a lot of questions on the last video. I guess it was people from outside of the U.S. if they can apply. And then I asked Mitchell this, and he said it's like a case by case basis. The income has to be worth it because it depends on the cost of living for them to be able to pay you back for what the cost it is to you to be able to teach it, like operations.
Yeah. So we're actively looking at different countries. The hard thing is that legally, the legal documents around it. So in the United States, there's a very clear way to do this legally to where we can ensure that we are going to get paid back, because we have to look at default rates and stuff like that. So it's kind of like we're a loan provider as well as the educational institution. And so we look at the different countries, and every country has different sets of laws that affect the repayment and their credit systems and stuff like that. And so yeah, it is a case by case basis, and a lot of the times we do require an upfront deposit. And right now, long-term strategy, the long-term plan is to go country by country and get it to where we can offer the income share agreement in these different countries. Like we're looking pretty heavily, in Asia and Europe right now specifically, and Canada, of course, because the same time zones, and it's a low-hanging fruit. But there is a lot of legal legwork that has to go into each one. So yeah, that's what.
Yeah, because we have the W-2 that you can just see, and I'm sure Canada has a similar system, but other countries might have that all, different, or you need approval to be able to see that stuff from their government.
Yeah, well, and in China, they don't have a strong credit scoring system, and so here, if somebody defaults on a loan, it has a credit score. There's different things like that create an incentive for the customer to pay back. In China, those mechanisms don't really exist that well. So it's, so we may not be able to even use an income share agreement over there. It might have to just be upfront payment. But anyway, that's there's a lot of research that we have to do there to figure that out.
But because it's free, so many people outside the country want this education. So
yeah,
I mean,
trying to provide it to them.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I put that in a comment in a response, I think, but the CTO is telling you, I think this is better served than me.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the major questions that I got on the Discord, and one of the questions that I sent you earlier was basically practical tips, things to do for self-improvement. How does a CTO or someone that's hiring see talent, which can all kind of be incorporated into what's the key for student success besides keep learning,
yeah.
Anything tangible?
Great. Yeah. No, this is okay. I love this question. This is the stuff I think about all day. And spend a lot of time teaching this stuff. So one of the biggest things that you can do is portfolio development. It's so with coding. I mean, so there's an insane amount of demand. So I heard this from a source that Amazon is scaling so rapidly with their engineering demands that several years from now, they could theoretically hire every single computer science graduate in the United States and still not have enough jobs, and still not have enough talent to fill all the open positions. That's just Amazon. I mean, it's exploding, and so there's huge demand for it. And so if you can get yourself above the bar, you can get a job. You will get a job, because there's so much demand. If you're willing to relocate, or if you're willing to put in the work and effort, you can get there. And so really what it comes down to is, and especially if you're coming from a non-traditional background, so if you didn't study computer science in college, you're going to have to demonstrate that you know this stuff through a different way. You don't have the same credentials. So portfolio development is huge. So building a website, so I'll talk about web development specifically, but getting a website up, getting it hosted, getting a backend up and hosted with a database, getting the authentication system set up, build a single page application, get it behind a paywall, figure out all these pieces and get it up. And even if not making any money off of it, or even if there's no traffic to it, that doesn't really matter. It's just getting something real and built and up and hosted using best practices and using all these different pieces. If you can do that, then you can do the other work that these huge companies need. And so build websites. Something that really benefited me. So because I did this, I went through this path. And so when I finished up Hack Reactor, I did freelance work, like even volunteering it for free for people that I knew. And I would like build them a website, get it up. It wasn't super great, but then when I applied, at the top of my resume, I had like 5 websites that I had worked on. And hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I gave like an outline of like all the different tech that I used and everything like that. And that was huge. And people would then interview me. And that helped a lot with getting my foot in the door. So I think like working on projects and like building things, like actually building things, I think that is the most important thing you can do. I think if you want to study, like if you're wanting to get a job at Google or getting up into like more of those higher level, like, kind of jobs, I think like then you have to make sure you're investing time into like learning the data structures and algorithms and like the whiteboarding, kind of stuff, like interview cake, those types of questions. That stuff, like you can get a return on that, and like it's important to study that stuff, but being able to actually build things, that's more important. And more companies are switching to an interview model where they'll say like build X, like you come in and they'll say like, all right, build a Kanban board from scratch. For those of you who don't know a Kanban board, it's used in development a lot of times. It's just like a to-do list with columns, and you can like drag the items back and forth, and it's a common workflow. But yeah, you'll hear like, all right, build like your to-do list application and do it live in front of us. Or like we had a guy that got hired at Uber, and they had him build out a simple mobile app using React Native. And so because this shows that you can actually do the kind of work that you'll be doing on the job. And whereas, doing the typical Google type thing where you're, reversing a linked list or doing stuff like that, like okay, like that shows you have some like engineering chops, but like and a little more of a technical theoretical foundation, but it's not necessarily an indicator of like your practical skills and that focus. So there's trade-offs, and more companies are switching to that kind of practical side. Like you'll still see those coding challenges, like they'll still exist and they're out there and there's a lot of them, but first and foremost, like make sure you can actually build stuff, make sure you can use the relevant technologies, and master, like deeply master like a programming language. So if it's web development, like JavaScript, like everything you can do to get better at understanding JavaScript, like down to its foundations, like make sure you know Clojure and recursion. Like you'll never write recursion on the job, like maybe once, like I've actually never written recursion in any of my development jobs. But like just kind of understanding it, because that helps you get better at the language, understanding how functions work, understanding all those like ins and outs, and that helps. But yeah, I would say like portfolio development, master a programming language, and then third is like maybe specific like data structures and algorithms kind of stuff. Like that's the stuff that I invested a lot of my time in, and that really worked out well for me, and that's been working out well for a lot of the students that I've taught and mentored.
So next questions, they weren't on the list that I had, but they're things that I was just thinking about. So what would you say like when you say master programming language, like that's obviously to be a master, it's quoted as like 10,000 hours or whatever, but what like tangible things would you use? You're not going to spend 10,000 hours before you apply to a job right after a boot camp because you want a job. So like obviously what I say is like go to Udemy, like find some projects that are pretty advanced and then modify them, make them your own. Like follow along, then redo it, but make it your own so that you like solidify it.
Yeah.
Do you have any like good books, or what would you use besides?
All right, maybe I should have a referral link or something. Front End Masters has some really good like in-depth material. It's like a monthly subscription type of a thing, and they have tons of stuff in there. Like there's really good content. If you're getting to like an intermediate level, like with your JavaScript, like Front End Masters is really good at getting to the next level. Like highly reviewed Udemy courses. So like I take a lot of Udemy classes, and that's how I really got deep into like React and Redux and Node specifically. Just look at like Stephen Grider has some really good like React and Redux stuff. He's a great teacher and has really high quality courses. Stephen Grider, Tyler McGinnis has really good courses for React stuff. If you want to learn React, Tyler McGinnis has the best stuff. I think let's see, like CodeEval, I'm not sure if they still exist, but like CodeEval and like CoderByte and like some of those different, I know those companies have kind of changed over time, and I'm not entirely sure what their state is right now, but finding those little like simple JavaScript puzzles, like that helps you, like get comfortable with arrays or get comfortable with objects, and like, help you really get comfortable with the ins and outs of the language. Like it doesn't have to be crazy deep, like, data structures oriented stuff, but even just like, reverse a string or sort the items in the array, or, doing stuff like that is really helpful.
Like one thing I want to ask, which is what I get a lot when I stream, is there's all these boot camps. Everyone wants in on like the boot camp scene. Mm-hmm. And then you have all these, like you have like the saturated junior development side of things. Yep. Like how do you put your foot ahead? Like what I always say, like think outside the box. Like first mistake is that you think there's a box to think out. You know what I mean? So like I just throw stuff. Kind of that was my plan until it stuck. But how, like, what is a good way you think for juniors to apply?
Yeah, I think the big thing is like, if this kind of comes back to the portfolio stuff, like if you can get a couple websites up, like, like your grandma sells baked breads or something, like build her a little website, or like, just whatever, like get a couple different websites up and like have that at the top of your resume, and just be like, list your skills, like this is what I'm strong at, this is what I'm like familiar with, and then show like, these are the 5 websites that I've like worked on, like give a breakdown of them. Like if you can do that and show that you've actually done these things, like they'll consider you. And I mean, not all the time, like, there's some companies that, like it's hard because in the boot camp space, there isn't any regulation really right now, government regulation, and there are some bad actors, and there's some really crummy boot camps out there that do not provide a high quality product, and so you have a little bit of that, like it kind of poisons the well. You have like, grad from crappy bootcamp X that goes and applies at company Y, and and then ruins that, like, that company's like, all right, we're never going to hire a bootcamp grad because that guy was terrible. And so there's been some of that, and so you have to demonstrate, but there's other boot camps that have been doing really well, and companies have, loved hiring lots of boot camp grads. And so it's, so it's a little bit of a mixed bag from the company's perspective. And so if you can, show that you can actually build stuff, like that's the most important thing. And then on the question of college, if you have the time and if you have the money, college can be a great investment. It is a good investment. College it's a good investment if you study the right things. That being said, if and I'm going to come back to the Lambda School example specifically, because I don't think this holds for most other boot camps, but like with Lambda School specifically, if I look at like 2 students, like one starts at college and then the other one starts at Lambda School. Our program's 7 months long now. So the student that goes through our course 7 months later, I'll say they finish in 7 months, and they'll say they have a 3-month job search, and then they get a job, making, $60K or $70K or something out in the Midwest. And they do that, and that takes them about a year to get to that point. And then they add on 3 years of work experience. And then you compare where that student's at to a student who just went through 4 years of an undergrad degree and is now finishing. I think in many cases, student 2 that took the Lambda School route is going to be conducting the interview for student 1 that just finished their CS degree. And so it's more the idea of like, so I'm not saying like college is great, but it's, most people don't think of it in terms of like return on investment. So like, be very, very careful about how much debt you're getting into, especially with what you're studying. Like if you're studying philosophy and you're getting 6 figures in debt, like be very careful that you have like you're going to grad school and like to be a doctor, or like you got to have a good plan on the other end of that. And then the other one is like looking at the opportunity cost, because the universities, like it takes a long time to get a degree. And so if you can take an accelerated program, get your foot in the door, and then have work experience, the work experience is more valuable than the education and that within the programming world. Because when you're programming and like doing the work, you're learning constantly and you're getting better. And I think 4 years of like working at a good job as a computer scientist, or programmer, and comparing that to studying for 4 years, you're gonna learn so much more about computers and about programming and all of that. So that's my 2 cents on the topic.
What I think about college is like what you said pretty much. Like you have some guy that goes to an accelerated learning program, and then they're out and they're already working. And by the time some guys spend 4 years in college, like that guy's already has like 3 years of experience under his belt,
Yep.
and making way more money versus someone that is now in a lot of debt with zero experience, just trying to get their foot in the door, the same as someone with an accelerated education.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
and a university degree isn't necessarily an indicator of quality as well. Like that's the thing you have to remember too, is like even studying computer science, like so we've had computer science grads come through our program, and many of them, it's because they couldn't get a job as a CS grad. So like even getting a CS degree isn't necessarily like an automatic in to a job, like depending on where you go to school. Like, so there's just a lot of variables you have to look at. Like if you have the opportunity to go to Stanford and study computer science, like go do that, like that's like that that's incredible. Maybe your community college's CS program, maybe take a full look and make sure it's actually, and anyway.
What are some up and coming frameworks everyone should know, like right now, today? Can't say React.
Okay, all right. So thinking outside of, like React and Redux, I haven't done a lot of it, but Vue has been gaining a lot of momentum. Our engineering team really likes it. It simplifies some of the problems with React and Redux, because React and Redux, that whole environment gets very, very complicated and big. And if you want to use React, because React is so light by itself, you have to add on like 12 other tools, and create React app kind of simplifies some of that, but it's still a little hard to just jump right in on. Something really cool is Brain.js. So a guy that I worked with was actually one of the main people leading out on this project, but it's a neural network library in JavaScript, so we use Node. And so, so it's open source. Anyway, it's pretty cool. It's been gaining a lot. This is pretty new, but they've been getting a lot of steam and momentum over the last like 3 months. And it's, you're probably going to still do most of your machine learning stuff, with Python and the, like those languages. But anyway, it's cool to see a fast machine learning solution that's coming out with Node, because it shifts everything to the GPU. I think it's called they use a tool called the ArrayFire. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, so they're able to speed it up. And Google's probably not going to do everything with Brain.js, but if you have a little project you're doing and you're wanting to dip your toes into it, it might be easier for you to pull Brain.js in and play with it than it would be to go and like pick up Python and get like pandas or whatever those tools are. But so yes, go check that out. I think those languages and like Ruby, PHP, C#, Java, like they're widely used. They're used by large companies. Like that, there's going to be code running in those languages for decades and decades. And you look at so something to look at, like if you're looking at skills to learn, is to look at the Stack Overflow developer surveys that they do every year. So Stack Overflow does this big survey of developers, and they gather all this information about like market trends and stuff like that. And then you can just go and look at it. And it's really cool. They show like which languages and libraries are gaining momentum, which ones are falling off. So if you're learning Ruby, if you're learning PHP, there's lots of jobs for those, and sometimes maybe it'll be easier for you to get a job because maybe lots of developers are all shifting to like React and Node and some of that stuff. But but I think like if you look at the trends, like React, Node, JavaScript, Python are all accelerated and going up, especially JavaScript. JavaScript is, you can make desktop applications with it. You can make mobile applications. Like React Native is now like if you have Facebook or Instagram on your phone, those are made with React Native now. If you're using Slack on your desktop, like Slack or Discord, or there's a bunch of others, those are made using JavaScript. Electron, Electron apps. So so JavaScript is like the perfect language to get started with, because it leads into so many other types of development. But like if you learn the other ones, like that's like it's great. Like they're not dead and they won't die for like a long time, but and you'll be able to get a job doing it. It's just like it might be better to optimize. Like if you're starting from scratch, it would probably be better to optimize your career track onto the languages that are going up and growing, because then logic would say that there's more opportunity there. Again, there's trade-offs. Like learning any programming language is great, because so like the core of them all, like it's very similar. Like a for loop is a for loop, and it's the same in all the languages. Like the syntax is different, but logically, like the concept of a for loop is the same in every language. Like an if statement, like functions, like it's all the same in all the languages. It's just different syntax. Like it's more like kind of how high and low you are on like the abstraction level that affects like the real differences in the languages. Like PHP, Node, Ruby, with JavaScript, like Node and JavaScript, like those are all kind of in the same like category. So it's like Facebook still uses a bunch of PHP, I'm pretty sure. And it works, and like it's been proven to work. And so there's not a huge reason to change it. And new startups, there's probably not too many that will use PHP unless their CTO that's what he does. But I would say like languages don't just like come and die super fast. It's like they come and then they might just start to decline gradually over the years. Kind of like Angular and React, like they kind of switched. I mean, Angular has a bigger market share than React right now, but Angular has been like starting to decline. What was your assessment of me as a teacher?
My thoughts as you as a teacher, you were like extremely smart, answered everything. I had no problem. And like, you were tough. Like you were tough and you were okay with it. Like you had no sympathy. And that's not like, from like in the moment, like from my perspective, I was like, dude, please. But you're like, just figure it out. And I would say that it's kind of like a tough love type learning, because that's how it is on the job anyways. So I kind of wanted like help, but like I realize now, and with experience, like that's not how it is. There's a lot of times where my boss would just give me tasks and I'd be like, I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out. And so that was what I gained from you. Try, like, it doesn't matter if you get the correct answer, it's how you get there.
Yeah, I mean I love that attitude of like get it done, find a way, like awesome thing is like if you do that for long enough, then that leads to, an extremely valuable skill set. Every one of those problems that you solve that way just makes you that much more valuable and worth that much more to the prospective companies.
Okay, so thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on and answering all the questions that these people have that I try to answer, but
Gotcha.
You have way more experience and you're the CTO, and it's always cool to get like, I don't know, I would say inside knowledge, but I'm also inside, so it doesn't really make sense to say that. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for letting me interview.
Yeah. So glad to be here. Thanks so much for your time.